Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. For those that don't know, my name is Carl and I do a weekly segment called Vacuum Exposition, where I focus on one vacuum or maybe a set of vacuums and the history around them, as well as anything that makes them special or notable in terms of design. I upload every Sunday, and we are always here to talk about vacuum cleaners and associated things. Now, for those that have been watching for the past few weeks or that have been a fan of the channel for a while, I have been doing a series for the past couple of months. We have been looking at, December was kind of more of a Christmas series, as well as January, we took a look at the Hoover convertible and several different models of that. Now, for the next few months, up until probably past my trip, and into May, we are going to be looking at just whatever comes to mind, whatever I think is really, really interesting, or maybe a recent find. So definitely stay tuned if you are into just about anything in the vacuum cleaner world or the history surrounding it. I promise you, I try my absolute hardest to find information on things that are notable or make good content. So today is no different. We are taking a look at another really interesting one that I found recently. But let's get on to the video and check out another really cool machine. All right, everybody. So we have got something special to take a look at today. So this stealth, all blacked out, murdered out, if you will, vacuum cleaner is one you wouldn't necessarily think about in terms of, well, home cleaning care per se. Now, there's probably a good reason for that. Now, back during this time period, well, vacuum cleaners were a changin', and I will say that for a fact because, well, they weren't necessarily the typical old dust belchers that they were of decades previous. Now, this one, though, is pretty special. So, what we are looking at today is a 1996 Hoover Turbopower 4000 upright with onboard tools, with the bag change indicator, with a 7.3 amp motor, as well as a multi-position height adjustment, and so on and so forth. Now, I know what you're thinking. I know what you're saying because I can hear you through the TV or computer or iPhone, Android, whichever one you are tuning into from today. Carl, why? This isn't interesting. It's an old black vacuum cleaner. Well, it is not, actually. Now, 1996, it was a very special year, not just for vacuum cleaners, but it was also when my brother was born, so that was pretty important. He just celebrated his 29th birthday, making this one 29 years old this year as well. So when I hear something that is from a year of which one of my family members was born, I do try to keep it and keep it around just because, well, they're as old as it. Now, this particular machine is not just special because of when it was made. This vacuum was part of a set that Hoover introduced, which was supposed to be kind of like their top tier. And I'll show the ad for this set right here. As you can see, they went with a all black with gold lettering motif for all of them. The Turbo Power series was more so just a zing word that Hoover wanted to use in order to emphasize their uprights in a more almost exclusive manner. Before this, when this machine was, well, in different color schemes. It's known as like the Supreme or the Dimension upright. It had a few different names that went with it that I've had over the years. However, the coolest and the most sought after, in my opinion at least, is the Turbo Power version of each of these. Now, the Turbo Power continued all the way through from the Hoover fold-away uprights, which was probably the bottom of the line, cheapest upright you could get through Hoover at the time, which had a handle that kind of folded down. You could get that all the way up to a wind tunnel self-propelled, which would have been kind of their top tier model. This one is kind of midway. This one is based off of the Hoover Elite platform. Now, the Hoover Elite platform was created towards the mid 80s time frame, and it was one of Hoover's absolute most successful lines. They were built tough, people loved them, they were easily maneuverable, they were lightweight, and well, they were a good platform to base a commercial line off of. So, whereas previous to that, you had the Hoover convertible, which was the flagship line, as we kind of talked about last month, but the Hoover convertible was adapted into a commercial. The Hoover Elite platform was adapted into commercial machines and was just recently replaced by other more modern machines by TTI, who owns Hoover now. This machine was built during Hoover's heyday, which Hoover's heyday, well, lasted up until about 2008 when they were sold to TTI in China. Now, getting back to the machine, what we have here is an excellent example of this machine. Now, the Hoover Turbopower line like this, any of the Hoover Elite based machines, they were always worked hard. They were worked so hard that the handles would be wobbling side to side. The hoods were all marred up from hitting everything. The stickers and decals were half torn off. Maybe the family dog attacked it at one point. All the attachments will be gone. They were just workhorses, and I've had several Elites over my collection's lifetime, and most of them ended up like that. Now, this one, however, was different. Um, the Turbopower 4000 had a lot of really great options on it. It wasn't self-propelled. It didn't have a dirt sensor. It didn't have any of those electronic gizmos that other higher-end models would come with. But it did come with enough features that you could do your whole house with what was on board. You didn't need to have a separate toolkit that you had to drag around and eventually lose in a move, or you didn't have to get necessarily a different vacuum altogether for doing certain dusting, and that is because of this option right here. Now, what this looks like, I mean, in shape, really, it looks kind of like a chainsaw, but that is not what it is. What it is essentially is the hose, which you see that loops around and then has a friction fit area right there to stick the nozzle in. But then you have this portion right here, this clear door, and I will open it up right here. And in you have your onboard tools. You have your dusting brush, your upholstery tool, and your crevice tool all sitting there waiting, in addition to a extra belt on hand, just in case the belt breaks on this when you're using it. It wasn't really an inconvenience to keep vacuum belts like in the closet or in your junk drawer or something like that, but Hoover created this so that in case it happened, it was right there. You didn't have to think about it. You didn't have to go, whoa, where did I put that 10 years ago when I bought a belt? Like, this machine was all ready to go for you and to do everything you needed it to do. Now, in addition to that, we'll take a look at the back of the machine now. Now, in addition to that, we see the back of the machine right here. You would have also had your two extension wands right here. So that made for cleaning anything up and above. So doing your rafters, or maybe the ceiling fan, or just on the top of the shelf, or maybe you just didn't want to bend over to vacuum the crevices along the wall. Either way, it had everything you needed to do for that. So there are the two extension wands that would go just conveniently right kind of behind the tool caddy right next to it, which I find absolutely phenomenal just because you blend it in so much. And with a lot of the elite based machines, you had tools that went kind of between the cord or maybe down here somewhere. However, and this is something I've noticed with a lot of 90s vacuum cleaners, when they had tool secure points on the back of the machine, where's your foot going when you're going to, recline the handle? The back of the machine. From what I've seen a lot of the upholstery tools missing, or the little clamp thing that holds them on gone or broken, because a lot of the time people, when they went to kick the vacuum back, they just kick it back and kick that tool right off and break whatever was on there. And then that's just how people would use it. It wasn't necessarily like the user's fault. It was just that was kind of how they ended up treating it over time, unfortunately. And of course, if you had the vacuum, you didn't really see the need to replace that or figure out what you needed to do to completely change the parts on them. Now, this also brings me back to the Elite platform. The Elite platform utilized this backbone, if you will, or handle back, and it was all very simple. It was a hollowed handle, of course, but you had a rotating cord lock right up here. So in order to dump the cord real quick, just flip this down and it comes off, as a lot of vacuums have now. But it was just very simple and easy to take apart if you needed to ship this thing, if you needed to store it someplace, or when they were actually storing it from Ohio, when they were shipping them out, it was very easy to put them in boxes that were smaller rather than have something that's like 3.5 feet tall and not easy to well, keep someplace. But either way, I really like the platform, at least for its ruggedness. Elite based machines are not my favorite, but something as special as this really, really, really captured my attention. Now, getting back to this machine, on the front, of course, we see everything you need to know about this. It had the bag check indicator also, which was actually a feature on a lot of vacuums going all the way back into the 60s. Now, the bag check indicator was exactly that. When you'd be vacuuming and the bag would get full, effectively, it would cut off suction, obviously. So what that would do is it would create a vacuum, and then it would push this little tab right here, and you can't really see it when the vacuum is upright, but when the vacuum is reclined and the bag is full, that little tab will go pop up, and it'll say check bag. Very, very simple in design, but very, very good for those that have vacuum cleaners that aren't paying attention to, the bag. Because a lot of people, for generations, have used vacuum cleaners with paper bags and then just used them until the paper bag literally exploded. And then you have a tremendous mess, not to mention damage to the vacuum cleaner because you probably sucked debris and particulates back into the motor, and it caused problems and dried out the bearings. It's a whole mess that vacuum collectors and vacuum technicians deal with all the time because it's something that happens, unfortunately. But now, this machine also being special because you still had a full-size paper bag, and that is right in here, actually. So if we take a look, we still have our Hoover Type A bag. Now, this is a very common paper bag that many, many, many Hoovers have used, including the Concept, the Decade 80, the convertibles, the Power Max, and so on and so forth. So getting parts for this machine was very, very, very easy. So bags and belts, not something that was hard. Now I know your next question. Well, what happens if you break the belt again and you don't have a spare? Well, that's perfect. You know why? Because you buy belts usually for vacuum cleaners in groups of 2 to 3. So what do you do with the spare one? You put them in the junk drawer, maybe, like I said earlier? No. The Turbopower 4000 actually had a secondary belt storage right here, which I have another belt there, just in case. So really, you had 3 belts on the machine, one being used, 2 to be stored. So Hoover really created a machine that was self-reliant in certain ways. Big time on storage anyways. Now, one thing that you can do, you're not necessarily supposed to do, this is the back of the bag door, or the inside of it. Now, as you can see, there's a pack of bags here. Now, it's not always recommended that you put a spare bag or bags in the bag door. I like to, just in case, because you never know. I have like 6 boxes full of assorted paper bags for vacuum cleaners, and while this is a common paper bag, I like to keep whatever came with the machine together. So but make no mistake, you can keep bags in a lot of 90s vacuum cleaner bag doors. So let's put this back on and take a look more at the machine. Now, this machine was quite a heavy vacuum cleaner. A lot of people complained about it because while it is plastic for the most part, it still is pretty dense, which, don't get me wrong, I actually prefer that just because it makes it so that this machine isn't so brittle and falls apart. However, people did have an issue. I mean, when Kirby's are out at the same time and they weigh just about the same amount, when you're trying to take them upstairs, definitely isn't a high point for vacuum cleaners. But this one still did have a handle down here. Now, contrary to popular belief, vacuum cleaners are not meant to be carried by the actual operating handle up there. That is for operation or moving the vacuum around, just like you wouldn't pick up your car by the steering wheel. So this particular machine actually has a handle right here that you would pick up and thus, take upstairs, downstairs, wherever you needed to go with it. So making it, again, another great machine for going and doing anything in your house. Now, of course, getting to the actual base of the machine, you actually had quite a thick bumper on this. You weren't going to mar anything, just kind of going and bumping anything. Plus, on black, it's not going to leave big marks on anything. If anything, things are going to leave marks on it, which was the only thing I had to really do, was just take care of some of the little white scuffs from bumping against the wall or things like that. But as you can see, it of course still had the fairly wide headlight and then the floor height adjustment going all the way from bare up to longer carpet. Used to be the tallest was shag, then they just kind of called it carpet. As well as there's also even a setting to just do tools, which of course the tools connection point is down here on the base, making it so that you can focus suction in a certain area rather than having the whole vacuum creating a vacuum of suction all the time. Now, this machine is definitely in fantastic shape. Now, this one was kind of a joint effort, thankfully. My good friend Mitchell Armstrong was in the area where this one was. It popped up on Marketplace for free. I contacted the gentleman, got everything set up, and Mitchell went and picked it up for me. And upon receiving it, it is in absolutely phenomenal original shape. I mean, like I said, there was only just a couple of scuffs or anything, but the gentleman that I technically got it from, he was the original owner, had owned it for, the past almost 30 years, and it was just his daily vacuum, but he took really good care of it, always kept bags in it, always kept new belts with it. So this machine was really, really well cared for. It did have some markings on the top of the hood, but after taking a magic eraser to it, everything came out and it looks absolutely new and mint. Not to mention it's also 100% complete. So this is a really, really cool machine, but it's even cooler when you take it out for a spin. So let's get on to our run demo and take a look at how this thing does on the floor. Well, everybody, thank you again for joining us today. I know that 90s vacuum cleaners and even to a lesser extent 80s vacuum cleaners and really anything newer isn't always the most interesting, but this particular one was just too special. Now, I've talked about a Hoover Turbopower in the past. That was that twin chamber bagless that I got from my good friend Jared, and it really got me enamored with all things turbo power. Just being, it was different, and it after doing my research, turbo power machines are not easy to find. Certain models are, certain generations are. but overall, they're not common as much anymore, and they generally got thrown away like the other uh, mainline versions of them. So being able to bring this one to you guys was really, really special. I am certainly proud to have it, and I can't wait to keep displaying stuff like this. As much as people don't necessarily favor the 90s for vacuum cleaners, it is a generation that we really do need to pay more attention to because, well, they're getting to be 20, 30 years old now, and it's a time period that's lost, and these machines are getting pretty scarce. So I do hope you all enjoyed our little expose on the Turbopower 4000. Um, but anyways, I hope you all have a great rest of your weekend as well as a fantastic Sunday, and then well, a great week. We will, of course, catch you again here, same time, same place, same guy, different vacuum, more vacuums, and we'll catch you again next time. Have a great rest of your day, y'all.